Welcome to The InEVitable, a podcast by MotorTrend.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of The InEVitable. This is MotorTrend's podcast. This is our vodcast about the future of the car, the future of mobility. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? I am Johnny Lieberman, joined as always by Edward Lowe, who has not one, but two special messages for you.
All right. The InEVitable vodcast is brought to you by the all-electric Nissan Ariya, inspired by the future, designed for the now. And right now, I want to tell you about something very special that we're going to be doing here in a couple of weeks. Invite you all to attend in person for a live taping of this very podcast if you are going to be on the Monterey Peninsula during Monterey Car Week, also known as the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. Johnny and I will be hosting one of the Pebble Beach forums. They're normally like panel type situations with some guests.
Us, live audience. We did one last year.
Yeah, I've done it for a few years. But this one, we're actually going to record an episode of The InEVitable. And we have three, not one, not two, but three very special guests. Special if you love beautiful hypercar, supercar, just beautifully designed cars, because we have three world-class designers. We have Sasha Selepanov, former guest, former, you name it,
he
VW
designed
designer.
the Huracan, he designed the Chevron and a couple of Koenigsegg's, and he just founded his own car company called
Nilu 27.
Yeah.
And he's going to be debuting his supercar at Pebble Beach.
Two days before we record our episode with him.
Yes. So we're going to talk to Sasha along with a guy by the name of Davide Amatea, who is the head of design, chief design officer for Automobili Pininfarina.
Yeah, a small little design house. You might have heard of them.
The guys who do all the Ferrari bodies, a lot of Italian.
Used to, yeah.
Yes.
But now they're doing their own car brand. All EVs, by the way.
Yes.
All EVs.
So Davide Amatea. And then late breaking news, we have Amica Bokert. He is the head of Lamborghini Centro Stile, basically their design studio. Mm-hmm. Tiny company called Lamborghini. He also previously the big designer at Porsche.
Yeah, he designed the Mission E, which became the Taycan.
Yes.
That was his final thing he did at Porsche. And it was such a nice design. They said, you want to run Lamborghini? And he said, yes.
Exactly. So Sasha, Davide, Micha, 1:30 p.m., Pebble Beach Forums. It's at the top of Peter Hay Hill. Johnny and I will be out there. If you want more information, just go to the Pebble Beach website. You can just Google it. Shoot us a note in the DMs. We can direct you. But come on out. Ticket prices, I don't know how much it is, but it goes to charity.
All of it goes to charity.
Yes. So
we get nothing.
We get nothing.
Nothing.
So support us. Come say hi.
It's going to be cool. We're talking about, the collectability of hypercars. We got Sasha, who's doing a internal combustion hypercar. We got David doing EV only, and of course Lamborghini is going big on hybrids, right? Their new V12 is a hybrid. The car they'll be debuting the day before, I forget the name off the top of my head, but it's the Huracan replacement. That'll be a hybrid. So it's going to be a really interesting discussion about the future powertrains of hypercars and also collectability of EVs and all that good stuff. You won't want to miss it.
There you go. PebbleBeachConcours.net. That's PebbleBeachConcours.net if you want to find out ticket information or just DM us. Okay.
All right.
And on to the question of the episode. It's a long one, but it's an easy one. It comes from a gentleman by the name of Clark Parham. And I apologize, Clark. I accidentally put our message thread to vanish mode on Instagram. So right after I typed it out,
accidentally
it disappeared. Yeah, those pictures you sent. Just kidding. So I want to start by saying I appreciate the work that you and Johnny do. I've been a classic car enthusiast, personally still in my first car, a 1971 Chevelle. But I'm also a fan of creativity and innovation, which has drawn me to appreciate EVs. And in the next year or two, I'll be considering a new car as my daily driver and looking for insights. My current commute is 130 miles round trip. Round trip.
Okay.
Plus any extracurriculars with kids. And I'm still driving my 1994 Civic EX hatchback that is achieving mid to high 30 miles per gallon. I would just pause and say, don't sell it, keep going. That's pretty hard to beat. But he keeps going. I love the car because maintenance is easy due to the simplicity of the vehicle. I've been eyeing a base model Prius because it would be an improvement in fuel economy. But the question comes down to, is my commute a practical use case for an EV, and what should I consider as an option? Now, I did follow up with this gentleman, and I said, hey, are you commuting 130 miles a day, 5 days a week, and can you charge at home? He said it's 3 days a week of 130 miles round trip, And yeah, he expects he'll have to put in a home charger because he lives in rural North Carolina.
Yeah.
And he's driving, not highway, mostly like the kind of mountainy, like between town roads at mostly 45 to 50 miles an hour.
Oh.
So-
well, he has a lot of options. Funny, a friend of mine in Raleigh, North Carolina, just sent me a similar question. Her husband has a similar long commute, over 100 miles each way every day, has a Tahoe, like a 2010 Tahoe, gets like 13 miles a gallon, and it can be done with an EV. And I said, yeah, and her caveat was they're not going to put a home charger in because they're renting. And I was like, yes, you can get an EV. It has to be a Tesla because that's really the only way to reliably do it. I mean, look, if you were to get also they wanted to use, but if you were to get a Ford or a Rivian or a GM product right now, you can hop onto Tesla networks and it makes it viable. If you have 130 miles to go, all you need is an EV with like over 200 miles range, and you won't even think about it. It'll be the easiest thing in the world. And if you're on mountain roads and doing 45 to 55, that's the sweet spot for EVs. It'll actually be extra efficient. You'll be going up hills and that'll burn, but then you're going down hills, you recapture. Look, Teslas, they're going to work for this. The Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Nissan Ariya, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Chevy Blazer. Great choice.
You could even go like super cheap, and as long as you're pretty religious about charging it, you could get a Bolt as long as you come home and you put it on the charger.
Yeah, but I would say free yourself maybe from that since you do have this commute, and if you haven't made a car payment since 1994, you can get some nice. You can get a Rivian, you can get some nice stuff in there. You get seeing a ton of BMW iXs, and what's cool about the BMW EVs is that they get EPA rated, let's say at 300 miles, and just because the Germans are so religiously chasing the EU mileage test, WLTP, they're returning a lot more than 300 miles. So unlike, like, say, Teslas, which are EPA rated, I'm making this up, at 300, and you actually get like 260 real world, the German EVs is the opposite. You tend to get like 350, 380. Yep. And all the German EVs are for the most part pretty good. So the world is your oyster, my friend. It just depends on your budget and what you want to spend. But
Clark, great question. Yeah. As Johnny most eloquently said, you can totally do it. If you want to go cheap, look for used EVs right now. Mm-hmm. Tesla Model 3s and Tesla Model 3s can be had for under $20,000, which is insane. Model Ys
you get a lot for your money. Yeah.
Model Ys are creeping below $30,000 as well. There's a lot of options out there, and you will beat the fuel economy of your 94 Civic EX. It'll be cheaper to operate, and there's no servicing.
And if if you were to get that Prius, it's about 50 miles a gallon, so you'd beat it by 16. But even like I'm trying to think like a Hummer or a Rivian or a Lightning, their MPGe is actually higher than what the Prius does, so it's actually cheaper to run, right? Despite the higher initial price. But
thank you for the question.
Yeah, good question.
If you have a question you'd like us to answer, please shoot it to us. It looks like Instagram DMs are the winning combination. It's Lowdown at MotorTrend. Sorry, Lowdown on Instagram, and Johnny Lieberman also on Instagram. It's no H, Jonny Lieberman. And let's talk about our guest. So
we'll send you some stuff if you send us a question.
Yes, we'll send you some stuff. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Spagnola, president of SEMA. This is the Specialty Equipment Market Association. This is, if you're any kind of automotive fan, you've heard of SEMA. They run one of the largest trade shows in America, possibly on Earth.
It might be the largest, as you'll hear, yeah.
Devoted to automotive accessories, high performance, air fresheners, stickers, wheels, tires,
automotive
exhaust.
Excess.
Yes, anything you want to put. You see a lifted truck, you see a slammed Civic. It's probably from parts made by a SEMA member.
Almost Mike, 100% certainty. Yeah.
Yes, Mike is a car guy. He's long time in the automotive aftermarket business, long-time member of SEMA, and the current president. Really swell guy. It's a great conversation, and so here we go. All right, so Mike Spagnola, President and CEO of SEMA, the Specialty Equipment Market Association, thank you so much for not only showing up on time.
Yeah, early.
By yourself.
Yeah.
But you drove a cool car here, which we haven't seen, but you told us about.
Yep.
So what did you drive here?
I drove my new Nissan Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it says Z Proto.
Z Proto, yep.
Nice.
23 Z Proto.
What color?
Yellow. It's the yellow top.
Oh, yeah.
With black top.
I saw you then. I saw you pulling up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Great. You had a
And
little
then-
trouble. I think you were driving around. Like,
Yeah, I was trying to find a parking spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
it's,
what are you going to do to it? Mr. SEMA, if I may.
Yeah, so I had the car about, not even a week. So I got it. I knew somebody at Nissan. I was able to get the car end of September. I think it was number 33. So it had the car, pull it apart, put some Brembos on it.
You've already done that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, almost 2 years now. Put
okay.
Put KWs on it, put an exhaust on it. Grady got me an exhaust system.
Nice. Let me ask you real quick to get just as going to make Ed's blood boil. But the KWs, do they do a lot of good on the Z?
That car woke up. That car needed.
Why would that make me mad?
Because you're going to be like, that's not on topic. But anyways,
No.
I'm curious because I do like a lot of things about the Z, but the damping I thought was sort of a weak point.
Well, KWs are like
And
the-
I just went up in
some of the
a Subaru BRZ. I went up the canyons yesterday, the TS, and my buddy has a BRZ on KWs, which feels like a miniature Corvette. It's so good.
Yeah.
And this one's like, oh yeah, needs KWs.
Yeah, I was actually, I didn't get a chance to drive the car before I bought it. I just, they actually had it at SEMA, and I loved the car. And
But you're a Z guy. You have some.
I'm a
history
Z
with
guy,
that.
yeah, and a Datsun guy way back. Anyway, I knew I wanted the car. I got in it, and I was like, it's a little soft for a sports car.
Yeah.
I thought the brakes were weak. I thought the suspension was weak. So immediately, got a nice set of Brembos on it, put the KWs on it, put an exhaust on it.
you drop it. So is it lowered? What?
Yeah,
an
it's
inch?
lowered. Yeah, and put a different set of raised wheels on it.
Oh, nice.
Put some pilots, Michelin pilots on it, and it woke it up really nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'd love to try that with the KW because that was my big thing. Was just like, the suspension, like good engine. They finally got a great engine in the Z, and I'm sure you're going to tune that. But like, boy, that would be an interesting car to check out. That's cool.
And I caught a little slack about it because it was the Proto. It was one of the first ones in the country. Supposed to leave it stock, and I was like, yeah.
Excuse me. You're talking to the president of SEMA here. I'm going to leave what stock? I'm not.
Also, number 33, it's
come on.
kind of the first
Yeah.
one. Not
Yeah,
it's like
get
there's
out of town.
32 in front of it that you can leave stock, and nobody,
And had to get a manual, even though the
Of course.
automatic was faster.
Yeah, no, but in that car, it's not a great automatic, and the manual kind of makes it more fun. And it's cool to get a manual with a twin turbo. It's like, that's getting rarer and rarer.
That's what I thought. It's probably one of the last stick shift cars I'll ever buy.
It's so funny. Like I just bought a Toyota GR Corolla, and I was like, it's probably the last internal combustion car I'll ever buy, and it's definitely the last manual.
Yeah.
It's just there won't be any.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Yeah, that's right.
So you were saying right before we came on, your first SEMA show was
1979.
Nice. Okay. Well, we were alive. That's good.
I was
So we're
alive.
not that
I
old,
was
not that old.
4. I was 4.
But that's a long. What was it? So
That's like right after like Empire came out.
Yeah.
if you
No, Empire was 80. Empire was 1980.
It's crazy, huh? I know.
and the kids think you mean Empire like the Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, I don't know what the kids think. They don't. You just dated yourself. Kids aren't thinking about Boardwalk Empire. But
Well, they're still not thinking of Empire Strikes Back.
right.
Okay. For those who don't know what the SEMA show is, currently it is a massive industry, supposedly industry only, which we'll circle back to,
Right.
trade show really devoted to the automotive aftermarket, meaning anything that you want to put in your car, on your car, make it go faster, maybe make it go slower, make it crawl up rocks, tires, wheels, air fresheners, like you name it. It's millions of square feet.
I was going to say, Mike, so it looks like you're married and you probably do things with your wife where you meet people that aren't in the car biz and they say, what do you do? How do you describe the SEMA show to a layman?
Very good.
That's a great question, and I do get that question.
Yeah.
And my wife, the funny thing about that is my wife says, you always find the car guys. We can go anywhere, and you end up with the car guys. How do you do that?
Right.
But, I can start off by just saying we're a nonprofit, and, just depending on the group you're with, right?
Right,
And they go, ooh, ah.
Right.
And I can say I'm in the automotive business, and they think I work at a car dealership.
Sure.
So I try to explain it the best I can. But then at some point you say, you ever seen a lifted truck? You ever seen a Jeep modified? You ever seen a lowered vehicle? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, those are the people we represent. And you kind of get somewhere.
Right. But the scale of the SEMA show, I think if you haven't been, it's pretty mind-boggling how large Like, I mean, how much of the Vegas Convention Center, you use all of it, right? Plus,
We take all of
plus
it.
another building.
Yep. Yeah, we take all 3 buildings, upstairs and downstairs in the South Hall. We take over the hotel now, the Westgate as well.
Right.
And then all the outside properties, so
Right.
all the parking lots and all that.
Let me ask you, because
It's
I want to
massive,
get back to what it used to be. That's where I was going with that question.
Right.
But because you're the president, and you probably are a member of like trade show associations too. Do you ever go and look at other? Like you've been to CES, right?
Yeah, we do. Yep. Yeah,
Is SEMA is it the biggest? It's among the biggest.
Yeah, the last 2 years we've been the biggest. In fact, there was just a news article out that said we were 160,000 people, B2B.
Because I know CES was at like 135,000 this year, 130. Yeah.
And then the construction show was number 2 this year.
Okay.
So CES dropped a third.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
it's
But
yeah, it's good.
CES before the pandemic there was like a year
was
where it was like 180 or something.
Yeah,
really big.
it was the deal for sure.
Well, and the thing is, I've been known to talk to cab drivers when I go to Vegas, and
Me as well.
you're not the most fun though. SEMA's not the most fun. Apparently, the rodeo when they come into town, those guys spend all the money and they do all the crazy stuff.
They do.
So, but we should work on that. But the first SEMA show you went to, or the early days, where was it and how big was it?
It was in Las Vegas. I don't know the size, but I know that it was one hall only.
And it was like a convention center type space?
It was a convention center. We all wore suits.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yep.
So
Booths were tiny. They were like
Booths were tiny, yep.
like card table, and
Yep.
you'd have a banner. You might have a couple of parts there, and you're taking orders by hand. That kind of stuff.
And to describe a typical SEMA goer, definitely not in a suit.
No.
I'd say like
Some
a
jorts.
dude in a jort with a flat brim hat and
some
a
sandals.
and a t-shirt that says something.
You gotta have a backpack, a SEMA branded backpack to get all the swag,
Oh yeah,
all the stickers and the
yeah.
stuff. in.
I walked last time I was there when we did the Volvo episode. I walked out with like more like emergency batteries and toolkits and that people were just walking up and throwing at me. And I was like,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. But the point of SEMA is, because we're going to get to that when we talk about the legislation and the lobbying. What's the point of SEMA?
So we're really here. We're owned by our membership. Nobody owns this thing. It's member owned. It's a nonprofit, and it's here to support our manufacturers, our distributors, in a lot of ways. Legislatively, we do a lot of work to help with product development, work alongside OEs, but it's really to help our motto is to help our manufacturers and our retailers grow and prosper, and so whatever tools those are to help them grow and prosper and protect the industry. Protect the lifestyle, foster the lifestyle. So it does a lot of different things in those areas.
What's the biggest? I don't know, how would you say this? What is the biggest category of SEMA member? Is it like the wheel and tire guys, or is it the guys the hard I don't know, hard parts? Like how would you
Carburetors.
Yeah, today, it's changed, of course, over the years, and I think we're still probably known for that muscle car, hot rod sort of association. It really has flipped to a, there's obviously a lot of truck category.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do this thing that, even before I joined SEMA, I did this thing to really kind of understand the vehicles that were at the show and really what was going on. And even though we are now probably seen more for the truck category, I actually count, because I get to the vehicles that are going to be on the floor of the show and outside of the show. And what I would call the tuner industry was literally last year within 10 vehicles of the truck.
Yeah.
So
and,
there's
and if you've never been, if you met these massive parking lots at the convention center in Vegas that are half stuffed with these like monster trucks essentially that everyone builds and shows at the SEMA show. And they range from from lightly modified to like chrome monstrosities with pink, purple, every color under the rainbow that jack 10 feet in the air, multiple axles, like crazy stuff.
Let me just test. You've heard perhaps some of the criticism of some of the vehicles outside of the show.
like the Bluetooth drive shaft.
I was about to say
I was
that.
going to say Bluetooth drive shaft. I didn't want to be mean.
Okay, I was going to bring it up.
Explain what Bluetooth drive shaft is. That's one of my. This is something that SEMA people say about the trucks. This is not.
This is an observation that I've heard as well.
So it started with a couple of guys a couple of years ago who, I think as a joke, pulled their drive shafts out of the front half of their four-wheel drive trucks, put a Bluetooth logo on the hubs, and claimed they had Bluetooth drive shafts.
Right.
And I laughed, and I thought, well, everybody's going to recognize that that's not for real. And some people didn't recognize it wasn't for real.
Right.
Yeah, I think the more hateful sort of association is there's a lot of these like sky high, chromed out, neon lit, yellow, green, purple, massive trucks on 29-inch wheel, like chrome wheels with spikes everywhere. And actually, the nature of SEMA is, and this is sort of a time-honored tradition. There are folks right now that are stressing over building their vehicle.
Their SEMA builds.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, what are we like? Are we like 8 weeks?
Yeah, we're under 100 days.
Yeah, we're under 100 days.
Because it's usually like beginning of November.
Yep, it starts November 5th this year.
Right.
So election day, actually.
So there are
there
are folks who are like stressed out. There are some actually who are like aren't worried, but they will be in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And they bring these vehicles, and occasionally they're like not fully done, and there's stuff missing. And for those in the know, they point at it, they laugh, they take a picture, they post it on Instagram, and that's in my mind that's where a lot of this. You see a lot of haters walking around going, "Look at that! Who does that?" Yeah. But that's part of the, I think, the big tent nature of SEMA,
is.
right? Like there's a car, there's a part for everyone out there.
So I'll tell you quickly that for years I built those show cars in my various businesses, and I would always kind of by October I'd get very nervous, you know, and you'd kind of have this anxiety or this thrill of getting to the show. And I sold my last business in 2013. I joined SEMA, and I thought, finally, I don't have to build a car this year. And I walked out to my car early morning, early October, and I had that same feeling in my stomach. And it was like, wow, that is really weird. And for about 3 days, I felt that. And I recognized that it was the temperature change. We'd kind of gone into this fall season. Yeah. And my brain
so
triggered.
used to stressing out.
So used to stressing out that I was doing it.
Nice.
It's the association, the temperature, the time of year,
Yep,
right? Okay,
yep.
I got you.
Nice.
So let's pivot then into because you've been again with SEMA since 2013 as you joined as a vice president, and you've been president since 2022. You've really then seen this shift from what SEMA has traditionally been, not just into the tuner space, but now into EVs.
Yep.
Right. So when would you say was like the first? When you started, 2013 is a pivotal year for us. That was when MotorTrend picked the Tesla Model S. Its car of the year. First time we picked an EV as a car of the year.
First time we liked an EV.
Where would you say? Where would you say? Where would you say SEMA and you personally were regarding EVs and from a headspace?
Yeah, I think
Back then.
So I would even say as part of my job, and we were talking about these trucks and all of that, is to celebrate all car culture, right? I mean, a couple years ago we really tried to shoulder in lowriders, and we're about celebrating everything. And but I think EV people started taking it seriously. Well, probably 2 year marks. Around 2017, 2018, we started to see a few conversions show up. So, guys taking whatever and buying a Tesla wrecked
Usually
vehicle
a wrecked Tesla, yeah.
and throwing all the gear in it.
Seems to be a lot of wrecked Teslas. Go ahead.
Yes. So Copart, right? Everybody knows to go to Copart. So, it started with that, and I started seeing them show up around then, and thought that's really cool. And I've always had in the back of my mind that's the hot rodders of tomorrow. Was this conversion industry?
Sure.
And so I saw it then, and then we started seeing Tesla showing up with wheels and tires and some lowering kits, and it was interesting. I had a little bit of one of my companies was in the styling business, and I started talking to Tesla owners about styling, and back then they weren't interested in style. They wanted to know if it functioned. Could I get even better gas mileage? Could I, did it handle better? Did it do those sorts of things? Right. That shifted today to be okay with style.
Well, it's funny because, we had Franz von Holhausen on as the designer for Tesla.
Sure.
And I asked him, like, any more colors? You got like 4 colors.
White.
And he's like, nah, we let our customers wrap stuff. And, I do see a lot of wrapped Model X's, Model Ys, but on the way here, and it's not that long of a commute for me, I saw 3 wrapped Cybertrucks. Saw gold, saw black, and saw like a weird pink with graphics all over it thing. So, sneak peek if you could. Like, do you know are there going to be a lot of Cybertrucks showing up at SEMA this year?
I don't know yet. So all those applications start coming in now, and in about 3 weeks we review them all to figure out where we're going to put them in the show. But I would agree with you. I think I'm almost seeing more wrapped ones than I am.
Definitely, yeah, especially in LA.
Well, you're going to see one on you're going to see one on Max tracks. You're starting to see a lifted Cybertruck on tracks.
I think it's going to be because you know how I remember
with a rooftop tent on it.
But I remember when the Gen 5 Camaro came out back when I used to go to SEMA a lot more. But I remember I went to that SEMA and like every single thing was a Camaro on 28-inch wheels. Right. That was it. That was all you saw. And then when the Challenger came out, it was the year of the Challenger. Yep. And then Hellcat is the year of the Hellcat. And you know, Mustang. And I have maybe not the year of the Cybertruck, but I have a feeling you're going to see a lot of Cybertruck.
Last year was C8.
Yeah,
no, this year is going to be, I think there'll be some Cybertrucks. I think you're going to be excited because you're going to have all these new Land Cruisers.
Yep.
Oh, you're gonna have the Lexus GX.
Wait, hang on. Yeah,
Tacoma,
Ranger,
and Forerunner. If
Colorado,
they happen.
Sequoia. I don't think Forerunner will be out. Forerunner's not out in time. Forerunners like coming out like now. I don't think people are gonna have time. I mean, it's like press drive. Press drive's coming out.
No, the press drive happened a couple months ago, but it might be out. But yeah, a lot of Toyotas and Toyota and Southern California / Nevada, Arizona. Toyota's huge,
right?
Huge,
and the Overland thing is going to be huge again. You know, Overland's taking off. But to go back to your question, you know, we saw it back then, and then in the last couple of years, we've really tried to kind of foster all vehicle technology, and we have a kind of a future tech section of the show. It's about 25,000 square feet. Our SEMA garage puts that on, and we're seeing a lot more now. Which we're trying to foster are EV component manufacturers. So, you know, we're now starting to see battery packs, you know, solo battery packs, solo motors, soda.
So that's
Cascade,
that's
right?
a lot
Cascadia,
of,
right?
Yeah, that's a lot of crossover with CES because we were at CES and I saw a lot of overlanding stuff. Like here, you're going to go out for 2 weeks. Here's a battery that'll get you through it. But also they had battery manufacturers there and motor manufacturers. So
AEM, you know, all these guys that are developing components and so we really want to see that fostered more. Obviously, we're interested in other technologies, you know, including hydrogen and, low carbon fuels and all those sorts of things. So this technology center is really wide open to saying, what does future tech look like? And fostering all those manufacturers. You know, we know over time there'll be a shift from various ICE engine, you know, parts to other technologies. Mind you, there's still 260 million ICE engine vehicles.
Well, we had this gentleman from Porsche on, Carl Dums, who's the head of their synthetic fuel program, and his whole point was like, Porsche's going electric, but there's like 1 point whatever billion cars on Earth that still need to burn something.
Right.
So
yeah. We had the same conversation with. In fact, we're doing a seminar at Pebble Beach on future technology.
Oh, cool.
And we're including somebody from Chevron and different technologies just to say, what do you see?
Right.
And what are the choices that are out there?
I might know that Chevron guy. Interesting. So, but let me ask you though, in this time period you're talking about from like 2017, 2018, when you first started to see these vehicles coming in with Tesla, powertrains. Was there any like pushback from the SEMA like members? Were there people like, keep them out? Like, what are you doing? And is there any of that going on?
No, I wouldn't say that as much as you do get some pushback from people that are saying, what are you doing? Why would you take a '69 Camaro and put an EV in it? Why would you?
I agree with that to some degree.
Why would you take that whatever? Right. But I think it's cool. I think it's we want.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I tend to find that the people that are like the biggest like anti-EV people, they don't buy new cars anyways. They haven't bought a new car ever. Yeah. They just like, they're driving around a '91 Suburban saying they hate EVs. It's like, okay, that's fine. It's not the new car, business. So.
Yeah. So I'd say if there was any of that, and I would say it was even more from consumers as they saw all those products get out on social media and those sorts of things. A lot of controversy over it. Probably more so than inside SEMA, I would say.
Well, I mean, look, if you're a aftermarket manufacturer, right? An EV, okay, you can't put a new carburetor in it or cams, but you need wheels, you need tires, you need shocks, you need body panels, you need paint, you need wraps, almost everything minus the drivetrain.
Right.
EVs use,
People are still going to individualize their vehicle, no matter what, right? They're still going to want to be different. They're still going to want to be able to modify. They're still going to want to look different. I see that going on forever.
Right.
And so, take the Lightning, the Ford Lightning. It's still a truck. It still can sell all the truck accessories. It can still do all the things, all the bed accessories.
That's a very interesting one because I think going forward, you're not going to see a lot of almost any accessory that works on a regular F-150 works on a Lightning. And Ford's even already said we didn't go far enough with the Lightning. We should have made a whole new vehicle. But it is interesting that, every single thing works. And I just don't know how much of that we're going to see in the future. But yeah, that's
Right.
an interesting point.
And people develop for whatever it is.
Sure.
I think you won't be able to, I don't know of anybody really doing good Tesla performance mods.
Oh, it's coming.
But
it's coming. It's well, look there. I mean, we've had Unplugged Performance on, and they do everything but the powertrain.
Yep.
There's another one that does everything but the Mountain Pass Motorsports. I
There's
think.
And T Sport line does accessories.
T-Sport, yeah.
Does, accessories.
So they do everything but the powertrain. But like BC, of BC Moto, he's cracked the powertrain.
Yeah.
So people are learning how to crack these.
I love Busy.
Yeah, he's the greatest.
Yeah.
He's sat right there. But you know what I mean? So that's coming.
Yeah.
Especially I think if Tesla ever moves on from the Model 3 and comes out with a second model, then, why not crack into it? It's just an old engine at that point, or old motor.
I don't know. So. I think the software is so key. I don't know that people are going to be able to break into it and provide any value.
Well,
go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was going to tell you that when the Global B stuff came out in GM, new Corvette, Silverado, those sort of things, everyone said this is it.
Yeah,
it's credit card technology.
Right.
You're not going to be able to crack it on over-air updates. Guess what? We're putting superchargers on C8s.
Yeah.
So, I do think it's getting harder for sure. I do think it's getting a lot more technical, and I do think we have to help lead that way and help that charge moving forward. But there will be some that don't make it, and there will be new people, just like in any other industry, that make it.
Right.
Well, let me jump on that real fast because I was curious, and this might put you in warm the seat a little bit. So SEMA is fundamentally about the aftermarket, but you do have a lot of OEM like the car companies who take up huge swaths of space, right? I know that Toyota's now got that prime spot that Ford had. Honda and Toyota have typically been great supporters in Central Hall, I think, in the back.
Yeah, we have eight OEs this year at the show.
Are you given how we're recording this in the week that Nissan just announced just a catastrophic they had a catastrophic earnings call. Are you concerned about any of the OEMs out there and their sort of viability in this age of this rough transition? I've said publicly on this podcast that I feel I'm a little worried about my friends at Mazda. I think Mazda's I love Mazda products, but boy,
it's a tough spot. But Mazda they've been in a tough spot for 4 decades.
Yeah. Is there anyone out there that gives you pause?
I think that obviously huge changes are coming. Chinese manufacturers are coming in.
Yep.
More EVs are coming in. A lot of disruption to the market. Low priced EVs, but we're in a magical age. I still think that we are in a age. I can remember, guys saying, well, the '60s were it. That was all the high horsepower muscle cars. On and on and on. Look at the technology today. With EV. Look at the torque. Look at the horsepower.
Even gas. Look at the new ZR1 is it's kind of comical.
1080,
1064,
1064
but
horsepower.
Really? At 5.5 liters? That's pretty good.
That's pretty crazy
for
technology.
Probably $150,000, not $5 million. That's pretty good.
But I do think there are some that are going to have to, rejigger their. We're seeing some EV companies in trouble as well. I just think it's part of what happens in this economy and this society, and
it's what you said. Right. It's part of being a free market. Is that some are going to struggle and new ones are going to come and take their place. Tesla, best-selling car in the U.S. now or California, the Model Y, one of the two. But Tesla didn't exist 10 years ago, so those shoppers were buying
from
something, Buicks
else.
or Rav4s or something, and now they're not. Right. So it's
and the same even in the aftermarket. We were seeing these smaller companies getting eaten up in roll-ups into large investment groups.
Oh, like the wheels sector, for example, is crazy. Yeah.
Well, what tends to happen? Those guys get big and they're strong and whatever else, but some little guy comes along and does something different and invents something different or a different style or a different look. Right. Yeah. And that just happens. That
jumps into a niche that the former small guy that became the big company overlooks, right? The cycle repeats itself. Looking for the best off-road trails? onX Off-Road has you covered. With over 750,000 miles of trails and comprehensive offline maps, you can explore without worrying about cell service. Easily find trails for 4x4s, ATVs, dirt bikes, and more. Our app provides detailed trail info, including difficulty ratings and open/closed dates. onX Off-Road also helps you navigate public and private land boundaries, ensuring you stay legal. Try onX Off-Road free for 7 days and discover why it's the go-to app for off-roaders. Download now. Okay, and only because you said it, I was going to get there eventually. You mentioned the word China. How do you, and we'll move deeper into EVs after this question, how do you balance like cheap Chinese parts? Like how do you put them on the same floor as the guys maybe who are the original patent holder or invented it?
Yeah, good question.
That's got to be super awkward, right?
It does come up, and we obviously we have a lot of Chinese manufacturers that come to the show. Everybody knows we have an attorney on site that
really
at the show.
Is he in a referee outfit? Is he got like a whistle? And
so if there's a blatant, we have to be careful, obviously, because if we were to kick somebody out and it wasn't true that they knocked something out,
sure,
that's restraint of trade. So it's up to the manufacturer to point to a knockoff and to show that they have patent protection, and they can work with the attorney on site.
Wow. How long have you had an attorney on site for?
Oh, years now. Wow. And every year, 1 or 2 people get knocked out.
No kidding.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And this happens like before the show opens? Is this like day one? People like looking around like,
yeah. Typically, it's before the show or day one.
Because I've seen with my own eyes, usually like in Europe at a show, like at the Frankfurt show or Paris show, but usually it's Chinese guys. And they're
excuse me, I'm right here.
Not Chinese Americans, Chinese guys, and they'll be walking around looking at a car, and like a ruler comes out of their sleeve, and they're measuring like a windshield.
You're
wiper
James Bonding it. They literally will get down. They'll lie down with a digital camera and take pictures.
I've seen that too. But it was French cars. I think I was looking at like Citroens, and a ruler, it was a black ruler, came out of this dude's sleeve, and he was measuring wipers and like the stuff like that.
Wrong. It's
what
all
wrong.
I'm
I
just
watched
kidding.
it happen.
It always happens. It's always it's always in the German booth, and it's usually when like that signature. I was there when I think the Mark 6.
I've seen the Germans also get calipers out. And
No. The Chinese guys measuring the Mark 6 like Golf, because that's like going to be the iconic vehicle for like the next 8 years. Yeah. And then now, I watch them get escorted out. Mm-hmm. So does that happen? Do you ever have like fist fights?
Espionage.
Or like people like...
Yeah, I can't say that we've seen too many fist fights. I mean, there are a couple people that get a little inebriated from time to time.
Yeah, not during the show.
But I mean, over like IP, over.
Yeah, I've seen IP. I've seen arguments between manufacturers. Yeah, it's not common.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing great about SEMA, so last week we had an event where we bring all new manufacturers in for the first time to the show, and we take them to Vegas and we walk through.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And show them, and tell them the best way to.
Yeah.
Look, if you're coming to the show, like for one of the points, for example, is if you really want to talk to customers, know that it's got about 10 minutes a customer. Mm-hmm. So you can see 6 customers an hour. So you can see 48 a day. So if you're, so times that by how many customers do you want to see? So we give all these tips about the best way to lay out your booth, know how many people you're going to get to talk to, how many people you should bring to the show, 2 days worth of tips. But one of the things that came up was, some of these guys come back after 6 or 7 years of coming to the show and still come to this event to learn a couple more things, but they also come just to network and just to hang out.
Of course.
SEMA is, we do a lot of legislative work. We do a lot of work with our SEMA garages and product development and protecting the industry and growing the lifestyle and all those sort of things. There is just this element of almost old home week of getting back to seeing your friends, of
totally
just people networking and talking cars.
And I've experienced that at SEMA. And also, I think because unlike a traditional auto show, there's less like, hey, this is happening at 9:20 a.m.
Right.
It's more just like you're on the floor and walking around. There's a couple things that happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
since
we do
there's
some
less
press
of that. I
conferences.
think it's just more
Well,
kibitzing.
it also
Yeah,
becomes.
yeah.
I used to cover SEMA in the
Yeah,
2000s
same, yeah.
for about 10 years. I was going every year,
I did
and
about
it just
5, yeah.
it was became a problem because you'd run into your friends and you'd be like, I actually have to
Yeah.
go and
Yeah, I have to
and
go
then you take
back
2
to-
steps. And there's another guy. You
I have
take
to
2
go
steps.
back to the media center and
I gotta
file
go. I
something.
actually take
Yeah.
pictures of this thing. So
Yeah.
it's also really crowded. Like I used to cover SEMA carrying a stupid tripod and a film camera shooting slide film. And
I had a photographer.
and having to bracket stuff. So, okay, so let's keep going on the EV piece. So I noted in some of the materials you sent over. Let's just get this out of the way. You guys, the SEMA applauded the Supreme Court overturning the Chevron. It's either called the Chevron Doctrine or the Chevron reference or something.
Right, yeah, Chevron Doctrine, yeah.
Yes. So explain yourself, please.
Yeah, so we do a lot of work with our manufacturers in the ICE market. Actually, in the EV market as well, you have to go through a prescribed test for EPA CARB. There's even a test for EV, but let's just stick to ICE for a minute. So manufacturers, if they're developing any product that affects fuel or air, have to go through a test to see if those products pass emissions, to put it easily. And those that don't, there's a EPA or CARB can come after you. And the fines are pretty massive. It's up to $37,500 per part that they can fine you for. So what we have seen over the years, and the Chevron Doctrine still says, I mean, the EPA laws are the EPA laws, and Clean Air Act is still the Clean Air Act. And so if you're building
For now.
yeah, if you're but if you're building product that's illegal, it's still illegal. So
Right.
we want to make that clear, because some people think with this Chevron Doctrine or the overturning, hey, we can build whatever we want again. It's not true. What does change is EPA or CARB would be able to come into your company, and you could be a smaller manufacturer, and say you built these parts and they were illegal, and your fine's $300,000, and it may be egregious. It may be, that fine may be just enough to put you out of business. But they had the authority to set the fine. You could negotiate it some, but the fine was the fine, and they could put you out of business. Today, if they walk in, and with the Chevron Doctrine, if they walk in, they see that you've made a legal product, they set this fine, you can say, I don't agree with that fine, and you can take it to court.
And they could not do that before the
They could
Supreme
not.
Court decision?
Yeah, they could not.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
So,
Okay.
so now you can say, I don't agree with it.
Oh, okay.
Now, mind you, you got to pay attorney's fees and
No,
time.
but you get a
But
chance
you
to...
have a chance to go before the court,
Right.
and either argue a case to say they're not illegal, or yeah, they're illegal, but Your Honor, I'm $1 million company, and a $300,000 fine puts me out of business,
Sure.
puts my kids out of business, and you can argue your case and at least have the opportunity to have a judge set the penalty.
And the Chevron Doctrine prevented that before?
It did. So EPA had total authority.
The authority lies with when you go to court. EPA would supply the expert.
Absolutely.
The overturning of the Chevron Doctrine now says the court determines the court must
Got it.
determine
Okay.
who the
expert is.
well determine on the matter. You
Right.
can't just go to the federal agencies
Okay.
and accept whatever their expert says.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I see how you have painted it on the side of the small business owner at SEMA, but I know that there's a lot of people who are. It's a pretty massive legal doctrine to have overturned with a lot of case history.
Well, I think
And
the fear is that the EPA can get overturned now. You could eliminate the EPA or eliminate the Clean Air Act. If someone could take that to court and get it, that's the fear.
Do you see it that way?
I don't look, and we are on the site. For example, there were guys building a lot of DPF delete products on diesels.
Sure.
Rolling coal. Boy, that's given us a big black eye,
Yeah.
And we put millions and millions of dollars into our certification program. So our SEMA garage started about, I built that program almost 11 years ago now, because what we heard was these manufacturers that were trying to kind of get through this CARB EPA compliance, they couldn't find labs to do it. They didn't understand the red tape and the paperwork.
Right.
It was very expensive. Could take up to 2 years to get a CARB EO, so on and so forth. So we built this garage, and it was, at first it was a little bit of the fox in the hen house. We were afraid that CARB wouldn't certify us, but we bought all the right equipment. And we've got about $25 million just in equipment and in buildings to do this kind of work. We have 2 labs now, and we went through all of that. So we built the lab. We found people to fill out the application on behalf of the manufacturer. We work with CARB and EPA. We have weekly meetings with CARB, and we do all of that at a loss. We charge our manufacturers to do some of this work, but it's at a loss.
Yeah.
We that's a red line.
None of that's cheap. I mean,
None of that's cheap, and it's
yeah.
a red line in our business unit
Right.
Every year. But it's to keep those products legal, and to we do a lot of work to let our manufacturers know, gang, you got to get this work done, and we're big advocates of it. We're now 50% of all the EOs that go through CARB come through the SEMA garage.
Okay, let's pause here because this is a national, maybe an international vodcast. People are like, what is it, CARB? Carburetor? What? And EO, what? So CARB is California Air Resources Board, and then an EO, it's
Which is strict.
very strict.
Very strict.
It is why a lot of manufacturers have like 48 state cars, and they have to essentially make a car that can pass.
I mean, less so these days.
But back in the day,
80s and
they
90s,
would
right.
make one that passed California strict emissions laws and would run on our like lower octane fuel. And then the EO, that's executive order, right?
Right.
It's like so you would need to. We used to call what's it called, the yellow sticker, you need to basically get the stamp of approval
Right.
from this state governing body that your part is at least as clean as the stock part.
Yeah, it's within a range. It's
Yes.
within a percentage. Yeah.
So at a huge cost to SEMA, you're helping your membership, the manufacturers of these parts, navigate this arduous system. Let me just ask you: do you, on balance, is CARB a good thing? Has it been good for the industry? Has it been good for the consumer, the driver? Do you wish it would go away? Like, where do you guys stand on CARB?
No, I think look, we've got friends at CARB. Again, we meet with them weekly. Like any government agency, it can get a lot of red tape and it can get tied up in things, and we call them out on that. Look, I think we all want clean air. I don't think anybody doesn't, right? We all want to.
And also, can I assume you're a lifelong Southern Californian?
I am.
So if you were going to SEMA in 79, I'm old enough to remember LA in like 79,
Yes.
80, 81. I mean, it was
Yeah.
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Well before the apocalypse,
So we look, where we get frustrated is when, for example, I don't know what there's today, but there's around 9 engineers that you can set an application in for CARB EO. So we do all this work. We submit the application, and we've worked with them on all the regs, on the updated regs. We actually help them go back to the state and get more people. We agreed to paying a bigger fee to help to pay for those people. It still gets frustrating when we can do, say, 2 air intakes. Same vehicle, get 2 different engineers and get 2 different responses. And so those
Like pass over here, fail over here, right?
or 10 more questions or whatever it might be.
Right,
And even though they both passed, and even though we do this work day in and day out, there's still that kind of bureaucracy sometimes that frustrates us.
Sure.
And so, but we have a list of hundreds of parts that are trying to get through the system right now. We meet with CARB all the time to say, here's the ones with, Johnny, here's the ones with Paul, and here's the ones with Ted, and Ted's always behind,
Right.
So, but yeah, I would say, look, the rules are the rules, and we're just trying to play by the rules.
Okay. Real quick, I don't want to spend too much time on this the legal stuff, but it is interesting. So you were happy about the overturning the Chevron Doctrine. Disappointed in California State Bill 301.
Yep, SB301.
SB301, which was, and correct me if I'm wrong, the bill that would have given some monetary compensation back to vehicle owners who switched their powertrains from like diesel or gas to EV, right? Like $4,000 or something like that in tax. Is that a tax break?
Yeah. So right now, if you buy a new EV, there is
$7,500.
There's a $7,500
Plus from California you get something. Yeah.
And so all we said was, hey, look, if you're going to convert if we're really interested in cleaning up the air or EVs or whatever it might be, the guy that is converting his ICE-powered vehicle to an EV.
These VW bus guys are doing it like crazy, right?
Yeah. You know, they should get the same tax break. I mean, if we were...
So what happened?
It passed the legislature, it passed the assembly, it passed... we had bipartisan support. It got to the governor's desk and he vetoed it.
But why?
Newsom? Like, why? Yeah, what was the rationale?
Newsom seems like a reasonable enough guy.
It does. So...
there must have been something attached to it.
There was nothing attached to it. That's
Piece
what's
of pork.
frustrating. There was no pork. That's what it was. So so there's different speculation. I mean, the state is in financial trouble.
Yep.
So that's
sure,
one,
and that's governor's job.
That's
right?
one. That's one offering.
Yeah.
But we are still giving it on new EVs.
Sure.
I have my suspicions. You know, I would tell you that when you buy a brand new EV, there's more sales tax. There's versus these components and bits. So you know, it could be a financial sort of thing. I don't have all the answers on that one. We didn't get.
It
a lot
seemed
of
like a
answers.
weird move. It seemed like a weird
It's
move.
not like it's easy to swap the entire powertrain.
Well, it's
out of
also
the
like
vehicle.
what's it going
gonna
to
be
cost the state? Like thousands of dollars. I mean, it's not going to.
Yep.
You know.
And you know, I could even argue that if we're really interested in environment and recycling all that, updating an old car is better than building a brand new car.
100%.
Right? From a carbon footprint, from a whatever you want to call it. And so we were really disappointed to see it, and we never got a clear answer. And it's only been a couple weeks, but it is frustrating that if
Any chance it goes back, or is it
we'll
dead?
we'll do it again.
I mean, because it seems like without giving a good I mean, look, I think you nailed it when you said you'd be, you know, paying out state funds to people hot rodding their cars. So I get that.
Yeah.
But as you said, like, you know, we Newsom trumpets that California is a leader, global leader in air cleanliness. Like, it seems like a no-brainer. And again, I can't imagine how there will be enough EV swaps to actually, on a California budget level, hurt anything.
No.
Yeah.
And we also think that fosters all these small mom and pop manufacturers who are trying to move into this EV space, who are building these battery packs and motors and components and all. There's a lot of those guys in California. And so they're SEMA members. We're trying to help foster their business.
Would there be a chance you could like lower the tax breaks from, like, you know, I'm just making this up, 4,000 to 3,000? Would that?
So we started at 5,500, and as we were working through, kind of talking to our friends on both sides of the aisle, we lowered it to 4,000 to try to make it easier.
Right.
Which politician? What the incentive for the politicians? These are guys who have conceivably some of these companies or some of the people doing this work in their district, or are they just like are they kind of car fans, or how do you?
It's fun. We we got great friends on both sides of the aisle. I just came from Sacramento. I do in this job. I think I got a D in high school in government.
Perfect.
So did a lot of politicians, apparently.
and I joke with my family that I would love to find my teacher today and just say,
exactly,
I just testified on Capitol Hill. You know,
right.
And so I never planned. And I'm a car guy. I never planned on being in this role of being, a spokesperson, on these sort of things. It's been fun. It's been interesting, but. I think that politicians in general, our friends, they want to make a mark. They want to be able to hang their hat on. They supported this bill. I think there's a lot of people that really do care about small business, and especially in California, and especially with so many people leaving California business-wise and all that. People recognize that. Legislators recognize that. I think it's a bill because it's clean. People get behind.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like a weird one to veto. Aside from maybe the number was too big, but again, like how many? I mean, I guess maybe it would lead to more swaps.
Yeah.
But
which is good, right?
Good.
Right?
I think. I don't know. It seems strange.
Strange. All right. So So let me ask, what's on your radar, in terms of like electrification? I read the statement. You've been pretty clear about it. I can summarize it, and you probably add on to it. SEMA's position is you want as much choice for the consumer out there, right? If you want to drive an internal combustion car, you want to drive a diesel, you want to drive a hydrogen car, an EV, we just want to help you make it look as good or go as fast or whatever as you want it, right? Is that fair?
We're technology neutral, I would say, and yeah, we want to see all forms of technology fostered and grow. We're obviously for clean air. We're obviously for we know the EV market is coming. We get all that. What we don't like is government mandates. I mean, currently the government mandate for California is 2026. I think 35% of vehicles have got to be EV. I think it's 7 or 8% growth from there on to 2033.
35,
100%.
100%.
Yeah. So we think that government should allow consumers to buy what they feel is right. We think that there's still a lot of technology in lower carbon fuels, in hydrogen, in all sorts of forms of technology. There's technologies that's not invented yet, but we should allow that to foster. I mean, there's more battery technology coming. There's more technology coming. So where we kind of draw the line is saying consumers are already voting with their wallets, and that consumers should continue to have a choice. We should continue to foster clean energy, but allow all those technologies to continue forward. And when the government puts their thumb on the scale and says it's EV and EV only, we think that that's wrong.
Okay. I think a lot of people would agree with you. I think a lot of people within the SEMA membership certainly feel that way. I'm curious, are you concerned at all as EVs trend upwards, as the more and more the kids, these TikTok kids, get into vehicles, that they lose some of is there any concern that the driver of the future, especially if they're driving EVs, are less interested in modification, accessories?
Or do you see that? Because that's been a trope for a while. Is that kids don't like cars.
They don't like to drive, and if they do, they're more apt to get an Uber or a Lyft or
Yeah, so I'll say this to start with. I've told this story a few times, but I found an article that said, "Does our industry have 5 more years?" And it said,
SEMA?
"Yeah," and it said,
Really?
"Yeah," and it said, "Is there kids today are not interested in cars?" It said, "Government regulations are stepping in. Cars are harder to work on."
Is this from like 1985 or something?
1975.
Yeah. Perfect.
So the article was from 1975. So
Right.
So there were all these things that said our industry has no longer.
Right.
And we've overcome those things.
Yeah.
I still think there is. I mean, we know that there's still kids interested today. We know that people still want to individualize. We know that people still want to modify. So is it going to change? Absolutely, is going to change. No different than, the Ed Eskandarians were building 32 rods, and that we've seen that market rise and fall, and now there's Japanese cars that are collectible, $100,000.
Hundreds.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
100. I was just talking to a guy about a certain Skyline that's like $400,000.
Yeah, $400,000.
That might be undervalued.
Yeah. So market's going to change for sure. We know that. We have to keep up with it. We have to foster that understanding. Again, there's 260 million ICE vehicles still on the road, so we're going to continue to modify those. But we also have to shoulder in these new technology. I take that personally, and I take that as kind of looking forward to say we have to be open to all these different technologies and what's coming forward.
And I also, I've been trying to push this narrative a little bit, but if you look at like a bog standard, to use a Britishism, like internal combustion family schlepper, like a RAV4, and then like a Tesla Model Y, kind of costs the same size, same weight. One is twice as quick and better to drive, and that's the EV. So I think you're gonna more performance is kind of already there if that's what you're interested in.
Right.
Like RAV4, it's fine at getting groceries, but you could EVs are kind of inherently for the most part, like sportier and faster, and
Right.
that's and like drag racing, like they're really good at that, and so I this whole thing that like somehow EVs make the kids not like cars to me is off base, and especially
off base.
from people that haven't driven a lot of them.
No, look, Model Plaid
Yeah.
needs bigger brakes, right?
Yeah. Yes, it does.
So
Yeah.
a lot of brake guys.
Maybe a KW suspension system.
Yeah. And then even looking at this overlanding, right? I mean, people are now taking. It used to be you would do an overland and you would do a Jeep or a Bronco or a
Wankers or
niche. Very one type of person did that.
And now crossover vehicles are the hot thing, right?
Yeah,
And EVs are becoming the hot thing. And, you're going to have EVs that can go off-roading for days, with solar panels and better battery packs and all those sorts of things.
Yep.
So that's going to continue. There isn't a market out there that doesn't shift and change. And this industry is no different.
Yeah.
So you own a Z. You have
Yep.
a bunch of vintage Datsun and Nissan cars. Do you own an EV? Are you going to get one?
I don't. My son does. My son's got a Model 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm open to it. I just happen to be, happen to have a lot of.
I'll tell you this much: the Nissan Aria, the Premium Plus 2-motor, like, boy, shocked me how. And I know they're our sponsor, and I'm a shill and all that, but I was expecting a big Leaf, not my favorite EV, and like, man, that's a good product, Nissan. Like that's so.
Yeah,
if you're looking for something.
I woke up a few months ago realizing that every car I owned was a 2-door, was a stick or a semi-stick, and my wife can't drive any of them. So I did go out and buy a Macan GTS.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to find something I can throw 4 good bodies in and get around. So
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of good stuff out there.
Okay.
yeah. To be honest, I probably will do a conversion. I probably, just because of SEMA, I probably will do an EV
Smart.
conversion. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a 55 Chevy truck that I want to do with my. That was my grandfather's. That my oldest son and I want to do with my grandson, and so that's probably gonna be the model.
Cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Okay, so let me ask this last question because I think it's personally very funny. And you've been a delightful, very candid guest. Especially when talking about things
Government
like
regulations.
government regulations, but also honestly, like you didn't have to take the question on the Bluetooth drive shafts. Just like you don't really have to answer this one. How many? When I go to SEMA, I'm always like, ain't no way all of you guys are small business owners. There's a lot of people.
I know where this is going.
There's a lot of people in here who just want to check out the cool cars.
Well, that's
and
real
get the
quick.
swag.
If I can preface it, because it was always the thing at the Geneva show was like mostly Russians, but there's like, what? These aren't journalists. Like
Right.
journalists don't have like Gucci jumpsuits.
I'm seeing little kids. I'm seeing a bunch of young, like how low is the bar to get into the SEMA show?
So the funny thing about this is we get complaints. We get people showing up in our lobby ticked off because they can't get into the show, and they're automotive people and they try to prove it, so on and so forth. So we do our best to say it's B2B only, Tuesday through Thursday. Now, starting a couple years ago, now we do allow consumers in on Friday, but B2B Tuesday through Thursday. You got to show a business license. You got to show an email address with your business. It can't be at joe@aol.com. It's got to be Joe at Joe's Performance.
Yep.
We go through all of that. We get screamed. We get yelled at. We get that the bar's too high. I'll start with that. We also know I did it. I was a SEMA member for a lot of years before I sold my last company in 2013. My buddies want to come in. I put them on my guest list.
Sure.
Or I put them as one of my team members. We know that happens. We know that down some dark alley somewhere in Las Vegas, somebody is selling their pass because they're going home on Thursday. They're selling their pass Wednesday night. So
that's probably the nicest thing that's happening down in the dark alley during the season.
yeah. But so we do our best, and
Right.
There's 2 pieces to this thing. We've got manufacturers that want to see consumers. We've got manufacturers that don't want to see consumers. What I do take from all this is that just about anybody that walks on that show floor is an enthusiast.
Yeah.
And really others look up to them to say, hey, I know that you're into cars. I'm thinking about buying.
What wheel should I get?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's
we
a
know
great
that
point.
there are tens of thousands of influencers that are just mom and pop neighborhood people.
Saw something cool at SEMA. You should get this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they've been hearing about it. Like it's all over. It was all over the magazines for many, many years, and then it's all over social. And that's actually isn't that why you guys set up so much outside, right? Because a lot of the stuff you can walk around and see the cars. You don't have to pay, you don't have to pay to get in.
Right.
You can just look at it, and then
And there's a lot going on.
when they're doing the drifting stuff outside, it's like a free show.
Yep.
So
You know, when I started at SEMA, I was when I was on the board at SEMA, which was 2010, 2006 actually. It was about 80% of the manufacturers wanted to keep it B2B, 20% wanted to be consumer. It's now 50-50. And so, we have to be able to understand that. The manufacturer that is starting their business, they want to be B2B. They have to.
Why
they have
is
to
that? Could
build-
you help me understand that? Like, why wouldn't they want consumers?
Because they really want to build distribution. So I'm a new widget guy. I got to build distribution.
Okay, so their time's super valuable. They don't want to talk to some kid who's like,
Right.
tell me
Buying
about
one
your
part, yeah.
widget.
Right.
Yeah.
But you get the OEs, you'll get the McGuire's, you'll get,
Yeah.
you name the company that's been around for 50 years, they need consumer facing.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to balance all that. We've got people on both sides of that spectrum.
That's a nice compromise, though, doing like the 3 days and then letting him in on Friday.
Right.
It's that,
And so now we're doing Friday, and then we're doing SEMA Fest, which is this big concert and party Friday night.
Yeah.
So
cool.
yeah, I think it is smart. And in fact, one thing I failed to mention is it is fascinating that SEMA is as strong or arguably even stronger than it was throughout the entirety of our careers, while we have seen traditional car shows absolutely
gone.
crater.
They're gone.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no Detroit.
Oh, there's no Geneva.
There's
I mean,
LA is
Geneva
okay. New York is Geneva's gone. You know.
Yeah, I mean the Frankfurt Paris shows are gone, replaced by this Munich mobility show, which is honestly 80% bicycles. I mean,
It's
a bad
basically
show.
now.
It's a
If you
bad
want to
show.
go look at cool cars in a convention,
like
you
Chicago.
go. Well, no, you go to SEMA or you go to CES. CES
Yeah.
is taking a lot of the big
Yeah.
the big tech announcements.
Yeah, but like Chicago still has like tons of foot traffic. They haven't
it's a
touched that
consumer
show. But
show.
I mean, Detroit that was the show,
Right.
and like gone. Like,
Okay.
or maybe not gone, but
So last question, and we touched on it a little bit. For those who are listening and are going to go to SEMA or go down that dark alley to get their pass into the show, is there anything in particular they should look forward to this year at this year's SEMA show?
So there's always new products and new displays and all that sort of thing. We are going to live stream the whole show this year. So those that
Oh,
can't,
no kidding, yeah?
Yeah, so first year we're going to
Oh,
live
cool.
stream 8 hours a day, 4 days.
and this will be on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, on our YouTube channel. So that's new for us.
That's cool.
And it's really, again, to have that globally look,
Yeah.
and people want to get into the show and can't,
That's smart.
or they've got to be, it's yeah. So we think it's going to actually grow the business. Look,
For sure,
we
for
are
sure.
passionate, loving, great industry, and we want to share that with everybody. And there were some that said, well, that's going to bring less people to the show. I don't think so.
No, the opposite.
I think it's going to just create more
it's like you
demand.
talk to anybody that lives in a place with a lot of tourism. They'll say like, yeah, now that everyone wants their Instagram photo in front of whatever fountain, it's 50 times more crowded than it's ever been.
Yeah.
It's going to be the FOMO thing. It's like,
Yeah,
whoa,
that's
look,
right.
look how much fun everyone's having.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what we talked about earlier, I think you're going to see a lot of, different new mods, what's going to be the vehicle of the year. It always is something new.
So what's
and
the
different.
vehicle? So maybe not Cybertruck. What's the new vehicle?
Maybe probably Land Cruiser.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We used to actually pick a model of the year or a deal of the year, or we would work with Ford and say, okay, Ford, you're the brand of the year
Right.
this year.
Yeah, I
and
remember
GM.
that.
We don't
Yeah,
do that in the year anymore, but it is interesting, and there's always something new and different. And I mean, as long as I've been in this industry, as long as I've been around the SEMA show, you still walk around and say, man, why didn't I think of that?
Oh, sure.
Or that's cool, or
Oh,
that's
yeah,
new,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
different. And guess what? Half the reason the OEs are there is to look as well.
Oh, totally.
Right.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
they come up with new products. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, listen, Mike, the time flew by. Thank you so much for coming in, and it was great chatting with you.
It's great. It was obviously inevitable that we would be together.
Nailed it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
The InEVitable Vodcast. Brought to you by the all-electric Nissan Ariya. Inspired by the future, designed for the now.